Let me before you lay rules for the flight, and mark the pathless way.
Then teaching with a fond concern his son, he took the untried wings and fixed them on, but fixed with trembling hands, and as he speaks, the tears roll gently down his aged cheeks.
Then kissed, and in his arms embraced him fast, but knew not this embrace must be the last. And mounting upward, as he wings his flight, back on his charge he turns his aching sight.
As parent birds, when first their callow care leave the high nest to tempt the liquid air.
Then cheers him on, and oft with fatal art reminds the stripling to perform his part.
When now the boy, whose childish thoughts aspire to loftier aims and make him ramble higher,
grown wild and wanton, more emboldened flies far from his guide, and soars among the skies.
The softening wax that felt a nearer sun dissolved apace and soon began to run.
The youth in vain his melting pinions shakes, his feathers gone, no longer air he takes.
Oh, Father!
As he strove to cry,
Father!
Down to the sea he tumbled from on high,
and found his fate.
A winged infant, white, its countenance like the whiteness of bright snow. Its plumes are as feathers of sunny frost.
We began building these helicopter devices, making each one larger. But to our astonishment, we found that the larger the bat, the less it flew.
Our rations might have been considered eccentric. There were 3 elephantine egg sandwiches, 8 or 9 oranges, a couple of tins of Drake's oatmeal cookies. For emergency rations, we had a bottle of Horlick's malted milk tablets and some Hershey's chocolate. And that, I think, completed the larder.
I got in on the X1 program in 47.
The X1 gets its 7 a.m. feeding,
And later on,
and the swirling cloud of vapor fall.
the first Delta Wing aircraft,
Saw
the
the frost
X1A,
form under its orange
X3,
belly.
X4,
An eerie
X5,
sight.
many of the research programs for
600
about 9
gallons
straight years.
that can blow up at the flick of an igniter switch and scatter your pieces over several counties.
Flew the X1
But
some,
if all goes well,
80-some
the
flights.
beast will chug a lug
taking it
a
up
ton of fuel a minute.
to about 1,000 miles an hour, 1.5 times the speed of sound.
Mission control is a big, big space, but there is no room in it for ego, only flawless teamwork.
They were threading the needle, shooting a spacecraft from a rotating Earth to the leading edge of the moon.
Never has a soap bubble held the attention of a group of children the way that the air balloon has been holding the attention of the town and the court.
Among all our circle of friends, at all our meals, in the antechambers, in the academic schools, all one hears is talk of experiments, atmospheric air, inflammable gas, flying cars, journeys in the sky.
Every avenue was crowded with anxious spectators. The discharge of a cannon at 5 p.m. was the signal for the ascent, and the globe rose.
Soon, the aerial navigators were lost from view, but the machine, floating on the horizon and displaying a most beautiful shape, climbed to at least 3,000 feet.
Born to a position where it could be seen by all Paris.
And made a gentle descent into a field.
without suffering the slightest discomfort.
We tried the experiment of running through the long leaves before the wind. We succeeded in decorating the machine with
The
green.
machine is placed on a single track facing the wind, securely fastened to the cable.
And taking on board a cargo of grasshoppers.
The engine is put in motion,
We made one false
and
start.
the propellers in the rear whir. You take your seat at the center of the machine beside the operator. He slips the cable, and you shoot
A
forward.
second attempt in the opposite direction was more successful. I remember wondering whether we should actually rise from the rail. And then a feeling of elation when the grass slipped away backwards and downwards and the machine seemed to be sitting on nothing.
I have a strong impression that I have drifted southwards. I unfold the strip charts on my knees, first the detours around thunderheads during the night, and begin to estimate the southward factors. It seemed a long distance at the time, but as I look back from the objectivity of the day and sunlight, I remember that most of my detours were only 15 or 20 degrees to the southward. The second factor, after the moon rose, was more difficult. I made several to the north in partial compensation. The compass swinging seemed as much one way as the other in the magnetic storm. I simply took for granted that the card was in its right position during steadier periods. 10:24,
81 miles above the surface of Mars, the landing shell plunges into the atmosphere.
10:26,
The friction of the Martian air thickening around the lander fires the shell to nearly 3,000 degrees.
10:29,
7 miles above Mars, the supersonic parachute bursts open.
10:31,
The heat shield has been jettisoned. The parachute cut loose. The sky crane's thrusters ignited. When it's 60 feet in the air, cables unspool beneath it, lowering the rover to Mars.
Why did the Martian atmosphere become so thin? How did it dissipate? What can we learn about our own planet from studying this one that's had such a different history?